Hey everybody, this is excuse me. This is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. Well, let me turn my light on. Let's see the difference it makes. It's kind of dark right now. Y'all can still see me. That's way too bright. Okay, that's kind of the same thing. We'll just leave it. Um, I hope everybody's doing okay. I hope everybody's hanging in there. Anybody this channel, I'm gonna write something up so I can say it at the beginning, maybe the beginning of every video, for people who are not being tortured and experimented on by remote microwave weapons. But if you are here and you don't know what my channel is about, this is about targeted individuals or survivors of long-term non-voluntary experimentation, torture, surveillance, and harassment from gang stalking programs and from contractors that are using integrated directed energy weapon systems, integrated directed neuro weapon systems to experiment, map the brain on people, torture them, trying to get them to do crazy things and stuff like that. That's what this channel is about. If you don't know, I get some comments sometimes where it's like, well, you need to say because I've been talking about this for so long that it's just what is in my life. It's just what my life is having some trouble, having a lot of cognitive issues, and an Alzheimer's type thing. I don't think it's that. It seems more controlled with remote neural manipulation. It's really bad. The remote neural manipulation is really bad. Didn't listen to Dave Case's CD last night. I just fell asleep without it with the noise canceling hearing aids in. But whenever I don't stay up with Dave Case's CD, it gets a lot worse. My body just feels ripped up, and in the first year, if they were hitting me like this, I'd just be like, I'd get my adrenaline going. But it's been so many years. But I wanted to force myself to let's jump into the information. This was sent to me by DePlume. Thank you, DePlume. And anybody sending me information, articles, it really helps me out because I'm super tired and kind of just like in a mental state from the remote neural manipulation, from the mind control, and also just from doing this so long. I'm not doing a lot of research right now. However, I'm not doing a lot of research right now because I'm so tired in mind control, and I don't want to. Oh, if I don't have to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. It's from a lot of problems. I'm trying to kind of get through that, and I forgot what I was going to say. But this is what I was going to say. But the deal is, so much information is coming out, guys. The cat's out of the bag, mainstream wise. They keep talking around us, right? The logic in Cuban embassy attack, the government wants microwave detectors for troops and stuff, and then you've got all these people around the world saying we're being hit with microwaves, we're being hit with something, it's affecting us, it's killing us. It should be put together logically like that, but instead it's like they leave us behind and talk around us, and then they talk about all these medical advancements, consumer products, the military, Cuban embassy attack, and everything like that, but then just say, oh yeah, targeted individuals are still mentally ill, right? Because we can't really, it's such a big problem, we can't deal with it. At least that's the way I'm feeling it right now. But I am feeling pretty, it's like negative, organically negative, right? So I've got to fight those things. Well, not organically, really artificial weapons making me feel kind of black pilled. I'm not. There's so much, like I said, the reality of the situation is there's so much information coming out. We've got so many levers that we can pull, and it looks like it's going to keep going like this, and it's going to keep building up. The cat being out of the bag in the mainstream media. So let me get to the information. I don't want to spend too long rambling on. I just wanted to go ahead and show this article. I'm going to have trouble getting even just through the title of the article. The government wants to protect troops from microwave weapons. That's where it should end. But then, they're still trying to bash Trump and get ratings and stuff like that. So they say which Trump officials considered using on immigrants. I think that I don't know. Maybe the people like the big caravans and stuff. They were thinking about using the active denial system, which is a big dish that can hit a big crowd of people. But what people have to know, if you're not a target individual, and probably most of the people that watch my channel are, is that they can have big dishes that shoot out a wide beam and burn people's skin and stuff like that. But they can use these, they can use directed energy in different frequencies, and photonic energy is invisible light. They use these things in a more precise, targeted way on individuals too, right? And we're going to be seeing it more like out in the open, in wars out in the open. They'll be talking about it more. They'll be talking about this everywhere. This is the future. It's destroyed my family. Like, it's destroyed me, in not in any way that God can't make that into something. But you guys know what I'm talking about. It's destroyed lives, right? This stuff has destroyed so many lives. And I forgot where I was going with that. Let's start reading the article. I mean, that's the point. It's destroyed so many lives, and it has to be regulated. Has to be regulated. It can bring about so many good things in society. That's what people are going to focus on. But even those good things, when it started out with experimentation and not telling the public about these technologies, then they're like, hey, we'll give the public some of this stuff like Neuralink, Neuralace, and stuff like that, and get them excited about, but the public won't know that even then it won't be safe. There will be back doors into it and things like that. So the public needs to learn about these technologies that they're using, and we need to make regulations on them, and quick, because people are dying. People are dying. It's in ways, I'm still alive, right? We're still alive, but in certain ways it's worse than death when they're stripping your brain, and just changing your brain so much, where you're walking. Let's get on with the article. But y'all know how bad this stuff is, and I kind of had to force myself. I was like, man, this is a great article. I need to just get this out. End of the rambling. Let's get into the article. I don't know why they put which Trump officials considered using on immigrants. They're using this on like innocent citizens in their homes. So, okay, they want to protect soldiers. Oh, they thought about using on it. Millions of Americans have this stuff, are being tortured by this stuff in their homes. So why is there an article saying, well, we need to protect our troops from microwaves from our enemies, when our own country is experimenting on innocent American citizens, and all the other countries too, even smaller countries ally with the bigger countries to get technology to experiment on their citizens. Then some of this data is then sent to the bigger countries that they're allied with. It's a trade-off. There's like alliances on one hand, and then on the other hand, there's global cooperation, right? In different compartments, different levels of the people doing all this stuff. I think it's a hard concept for some of us to understand. Is that, okay, Russia and China are building up their weapons programs, and then maybe some of the people in the U.S. who are working on, like maybe even my attackers are like, oh, well, we've got to experiment on this guy and his family because Russia's doing it, and we've got to have our weapons program ready to protect us. But in that compartment, but then there's another compartment above them that knows that there's going to be cooperation between Russia, China, and America on global mind control, right? And global DHS fusion centers. So they're doing both, and they're probably doing other things too that I don't even know about, but competition and then cooperation, but in different compartments of military industrial complexes of different countries, right? I hope that makes sense. A December request for contract proposals calls microwave weapons a growing threat on the battlefield. Microwave weapons have been such a threat to every human being on this planet, way long before after World War II, the experimentation in America started, and the experimentation in other countries started. And then like in 1970, they had perfected it where they could actually send frequencies to and from the brain, right? Return signals from the brain. I think 1970. You guys that maybe know the history better of exactly when, maybe put something in the comments. Okay, a December request for contract proposals calls microwave weapons a growing threat on the battlefield. This is from Dan Vergano. So we're going to see a lot of these different articles coming out just saying, hey, microwave weapons are a new threat, because they exist, and people need to listen to the people who've been experimented and tortured by them for just involuntarily for decades, for decades. It's a very serious thing, and the logic needs to be there with people. And I can just say the logic. If you see all this stuff about microwave weapons and they really exist, and then you had targeted individuals like 10 to some 10 years ago, some 20 years ago, saying that it was affecting their brain and their nervous system, then you put two and two together and you say these weapons do really exist. These people had no knowledge of these weapons at all, were being hit with something and had to look it up. They're telling the truth, right? We're telling the truth. And I think it's obvious. I think this is a fear-based society where things can be looking people right in the face. They can know that it's happened, but they won't say anything because they're really scared. We've got a lot to work through. We've got the apocalypse to work through. These noise canceling hearing aids really hurt my ears, like because this hat will press them up here. And what my attackers are doing right now is they're putting a field of electromagnetic frequency energy up against the side of my head so that it presses. It's like pressuring the skin and creating a burning sensation that's like really, really bad. That's a small thing they do. Like what's going on with my brain, I don't even think I could explain it. It's so intertwined, right? It's like I'm trying to think about what they're doing to my brain, but then they're even using that to round about using the remote neural manipulation because it's just going on so long. They've had my brain for so long, mapping it, doing signals to and from, that it's like they're doing very complex electromagnetic surgery to my brain. You know, this has a lot of good information in it. Let's get going. After being dismissed for decades, microwave weapons are beginning to be viewed as a serious military threat. Microwave weapons have been around for so long. They've been used in the Middle East when our troops went over there after 9/11. They've been used in wars consecutively ever since. They've been used to experiment and torture people. They're out there, but the public still doesn't know about them. I won't go into the story, but they're not just looking into them. This is the narrative. This is the show where they're like, oh, we're starting to look into this stuff. That's a lie. This is a blatant lie. After being dismissed for decades, no, they haven't been dismissed for decades. They've been hidden by the military industrial complex. There's so much power with this stuff. And they don't want the public to have any of it. They've trickled it out a little bit to like MIT and other colleges, universities, medical centers. Trickled out the ones that are linked up with the military industrial complex, right? Have certain compartments where they'll my attackers are like really blanking me out. It's really bad. Okay, but anyway, I can't remember what I was saying. So after being dismissed for decades, microwave weapons are beginning to be viewed as a serious military threat, prompting the Defense Department to issue a request to outfit U.S. soldiers with detectors for what it called a growing threat on the battlefield. So, and we need to get those detectors. A lot of targeted individuals have said we need to get those detectors throughout the years. I would think we need to look for the ones that they're getting, these soldiers, and then people, me especially, like people doing videos need to, before every video, check check that little detector and show it as proof, right? Just show all this proof. The weapons, some of which cause burning sensations, have already been considered for U.S. use on U.S. soil. In June, a federal police officer had requested a truck-sized microwave heat ray to disperse Black Lives Matter protests. The Trump administration considered using the same device against asylum seekers in 2018, so the big caravans, right? Now the Defense Department wants U.S. soldiers outfitted with microwave weapon detectors. That was laid out on December 9th, contract solicitation for a low-cost, low-weight, small-size wearable radio frequency weapon exposure detector. We know they have these in the consumer market. I'd like to get my hands on the ones that they're using, so when they're showing it on the mainstream media, we could show ours too, and it would be like, it would just completely link up perfectly with what we're going through. The Defense Department's interest in detecting microwave weapons comes as Israel, China, and Russia are reportedly inventing their own versions of a microwave heat ray active denial system that the U.S. pioneered 2 decades ago. All of these countries that they've mentioned are way, way ahead of the active denial system and there's a directed energy weapon infrastructure around the globe that all these countries use: microwave towers, radar, satellite, drone, many wind towers, many other things like I think even stuff below the ocean near these, like California and Florida, in Oregon, and in New York, like under the water lines or under the water things that have the ability to direct electromagnetic frequency energy. And this is like some people working on this stuff that are using the microwave weapons, or manufacturing the weapons. They really do think that they're in competition with Israel, China, and Russia. But like I said, on another level, in another compartment, they realize it's a global thing, right? To get all these weapon systems and get all the experimentation in every country going, so that whenever anybody in any country is a threat to tyranny, they can be taken out, or just more experimentation can be done in every country. Um, so the active denial, the U.S. continues to develop the technology. It's developed the technology for so long, and they're streamlining it, training, research, and development on these weapon systems. And they mention a big one right here. The U.S. continues to develop the technology. An Air Force research laboratory is rolling out a counter-swarm electromagnetic weapon called Thor to fry drones in mid-flight. A Navy microwave weapon prototype mounted on a standard gun mount was unveiled in 2018. The need to disable drones became more real with the autumn war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, with which the former won with fleets of drones decimating the latter's defenses. Then in December, a new report suggested these weapons could cause neurological injuries. Like, I'm sitting here right now as a survivor of brutal integrated directed energy weapon attacks for many years involuntarily. I didn't do anything to deserve this. It's experimentation and torture, and I have severe neurological issues. My it gets kind of dark, and like I'm precocious, but sometimes I don't want to kind of say how bad I do. I complain, but it's very bad. It's very bad to the brain, and it's like they're pumping so many frequencies to the brain that over a long amount of time, your brain it fries out, it burns out basically. It burns out, and your neurons aren't firing as fast because your brain has just been bombarded by microwaves. And so I'm having a lot of cognitive problems, a lot of energy problems, a lot of so severe neurological injuries, depending on how intense the frequency that they're shooting at somebody, but also depending with targeted individuals, survivors of this non-consensual torture, non-consensual experimentation. It goes on and on and on and on for decades, for year after year after year after year after year. When you're being hit with microwaves, even if it's not, and these are high levels of microwaves, but even if it wasn't a high level of microwaves, still the brain can't take it over that long period of time. The nervous system, the body, the endocrine system, because they're directly affecting the endocrine system and the nervous system through the brain. Okay, so yeah, that is so important. And then in December, a new report suggested these weapons could cause neurological injuries. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine's criticized report suggested the weapons were the most plausible explanation for puzzling neurological injuries seen in at least 15 diplomatic personnel and their families in Cuba in 2016 and 2017. Yes. In 2016, when the Cuban embassy attack happened, I made a video right afterwards, and I said, "This is remote microwaves. This isn't something like." So how did some mentally ill person and all these other target individuals going, "Yeah, we know that's microwave weapons," and everybody's like, "Oh, it's a mystery weapon," and then 4 years later they say, "Oh, well, we think it's microwave weapons now." How did a bunch of mentally ill people call that? Well, it's because we're not mentally ill and we're being hit with the same weapon. So we knew when we saw that, well, maybe they didn't have the exact same protocol or V2K or something, but definitely remote microwave weapons, right? Without known patterns of radio frequency injury to guide diagnosis, it will be difficult to differentiate. This is the problem I think I had with my neurologist, because the neurologist in Philadelphia knew that they were looking for damage from microwaves, right? With my neurologist being like, oh well, he's mentally ill, we're going to check out his brain. They didn't know what they were looking for, so there was probably damage there from microwaves, but they don't know. It's hard for them to diagnose. It's like, oh, maybe, well, they didn't see my brain before. Maybe this is just how it looked, right? I don't know. Like, I'm not a neurologist. I'm pretty close to, right? We're in the public, targeted individuals as maybe the most forward out there in the public experts on neuroweapons technology. And that's a very sad thing, because this should be a whole topic for the public. The only people that are like out in the public talking about it, are the people getting hit by it, or the people whose lives are getting destroyed by it. With a couple of whistleblowers too, but their lives are being destroyed too. Um, so without known patterns of radio frequency injury to guide diagnosis, it will be difficult to differentiate microwave injury from other common sources of illness and injuries such as heat stroke. Says the Defense Agency's microwave weapon detector program request, which closes in about 2 weeks. This ambiguous symptomology is aggravated by the transient nature of RF energy. Without a sensor, it is possible that no residual evidence of RF attack will be available. Listen to what they said in this report to request those devices to detect microwaves hitting their soldiers. This is something that the targeted individuals that are all over the world have been ripping our hair out, because without a sensor, it is possible that no residual evidence of RF attack will be available. You can't see it. You can't see it. And if your brain's being damaged inside, or your nervous system, or like your inside, your organs, people can't see that. And it's not, it's like, oh, there's no residual evidence, so nothing's really even happening. But it's the worst. It's the worst crime in the world. Um, so let's go down. The Defense Department declined to comment on the detector contract. However, experts contacted by BuzzFeed News suggested that the burgeoning military interest in microwave weapons might spring from the advent of drone zapping weapons and the NASAM report. The technology, they added, is noteworthy as a new battlefield concern in the 21st century. And it's like, oh, it just came out of nowhere. Like, oh, it's just a new battlefield concern. Some countries may have just like found some microwave weapons in their basement, and now they're going to use them in war. No, this has been a buildup. Every military industrial complex of every country has had weapons programs. How do you think they're figuring out how do you think that they're figuring out what these weapons can do to the human body and to the human brain? And then you have to look no further, except besides the people saying, I'm being hit with microwaves, it's affecting my body, it's affecting my brain, it's hurting my family, I can't get a job because of it. It's like, so you just have to listen to like, it's a new growing threat in war. Well, how did it get that way? The military industrial complex has had to have been developing it for many years for it to ever be like a new threat on the battlefield, right? And then all you have to do is listen to target individuals, and you're like, oh, wait, these people were telling the truth, because it's all out there now, right? And I'm preaching to the choir, so I know that. Um, I suppose that although the U.S. has never deployed these weapons in a theater of war, there's a fear that other actors will. There's a fear that other actors. Wow, wow. I suppose that although the U.S. has never deployed these weapons in a theater of war, they have. They have. After 9/11, they were burning people to a crisp with huge lasers, and they were using these weapons. And then well, during and after those wars, right, they were experimenting on their own citizens, like shooting directed energy weapons at me right now to my head. My neurological condition is really bad from the remote neural manipulation frequencies to and from the brain. And this is saying, I suppose that although the U.S. has never deployed these weapons, the U.S. knows all about these weapons, has been using them for a long time in war against their own citizens. So has every other country, but it's all just been kind of on the down low. The mainstream media even talks about it and stuff, but then it's just kind of swiped to the side, right? It's not something that gets trending or anything like that. Um, and that's so ludicrous. It's so ludicrous that the U.S. is innocent, but we're worried about other countries. Like the U.S. is gonna like not have a microwave weapon program in the military industrial complex, while Israel, China, and Russia. Come on, like that's not even. It's not. It shouldn't even be uttered out of anybody's mouth. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. We live in mafia world. In mafia world, they say, yeah, it's right in everybody's faces, but why don't you go ahead and prove it? What you gonna do about it? We'll kill your family if you ever talk about it. And it's bad because if you do talk about this stuff, especially if you've got a team of remote microwave attackers, it's like everything you do, especially if it's getting information out, it's like, oh, we're going to murder you more. We're going to hurt you more. Really sucks. Okay, so Andrew Wood of the Australian Centre for Electromagnetic Bioeffects Research. Andrew Wood, so we need to remember this name. There are a lot of names in these articles that I'm not uh, putting out there. I need to make a list of these people, and we need to get in contact with them. Andrew Wood of the Australian Centre for Electromagnetic Bioeffects Research said by email. Oh, wow. Okay, maybe not, because he's on the take. They can easily be concealed behind cloth, screens, he added. So, U.S. military personnel experiencing burning sensations, for example, might need a detector to tell if someone else is pointing a microwave weapon at them. We got a big problem here. Got a lot of big problems, right? A huge problem is how they're trying to present this now is just there's ground weapons, there's active denial systems. You'll see it. They'll be behind a bush or they'll be, whatever. It's going to be a weapon line of sight, right? But they're not going to say anything about there's a huge grid around the world with satellites, microwave towers, 5G. I guess I shouldn't have said that. FIVE, how do you say G in like Spanish? I forgot that one. Ge, ge, ge. I probably got that wrong. Forgot what I was talking about. But they're trying to put the narrative to this is going to be somebody behind the bushes with a line of sight weapon, or they're going to have to get close to you, right? That makes people feel safer that they'll know if they're being hit. But you can be like nobody can be around you doing anything. For me, it's like I'm gang stalked around me, but I'm hit with remote weapons from microwave tower and radar. They're not going to be saying that in these articles because that would cause a shitstorm, right? I don't. Maybe it wouldn't cause a shitstorm. Maybe people wouldn't even notice. The contract's demand for a wearable sensor that can fit into a rifle magazine pouch and can be clipped to a vest also points to concerns about accidental exposure to microwaves by military test site workers. Environmental epidemiologist Marlos Eftins of the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute told BuzzFeed News by email about accidental exposure to microwaves by military. Okay. Also points to concerns. Okay. Despite the burning sensation one might feel when they are in the beam of a heat ray-like weapon. You know what a nurse said to me when I got put into the mental institution? I was telling them I was like, I'm being hit, I'm being heated up, and it feels like there's a stream of energy hitting me. Right? I didn't know so much about the remote neural manipulation, everything they were doing to my brain so much, but I knew I was being hit with something. I had the tinnitus-like sound. I'm getting hit by heat in the head. And I remember one of the nurses who had never even met me. I hadn't talked to her, but she was like um, they put you through the system to go to the mental place, and she was like, "You ain't being hit by no ray gun. You ain't being hit by no ray gun." I didn't even say anything like that. But let's read this sentence again. Despite the burning sensation one might feel when they are in the beam of a heat ray-like weapon. So I mean, now it's just coming out, right? You get people saying, "Oh, you ain't being hit by no ray gun." Oh, wait, there are ray guns and they're being used against a bunch of people. Okay, well that even what she said to try and make it sound crazy is now in mainstream news articles. I would never use something to describe it like that. Try and use like stream of energy or directed energy or Wi-Fi energy, even though that's not really what it's not exactly Wi-Fi, but people can get an idea. Like today, I went to this place. I went to a shop down here, and I talked to the guy sometimes, and he's like asked me what I did, and I was like, I do activism. There's basically I said this. I said, you know how like you get Wi-Fi to your phone and it sends data to your phone. Well, now they have the capability because the brain is electromagnetic and we're breathing in nanoparticulates and everything like that to turn us into dirty circuit boards. It's kind of like your phone would receive data. They can do a version of that to the brain, receive data from the brain and send data to the brain from a bidirectional stream of energy, a return signal and a to signal. I don't know what the to signal would be called. And he was like, oh wow. I mean, it was like he wasn't misbelief. He didn't not believe me because he sees how crazy the world is, but I'm not too sure what he thought about it, you know. But it's a good way to describe it. You know how your cell phone receives a signal from a microwave tower and that there's data in that stream of microwave, right? Well, they can do that with a bidirectional stream of electromagnetic energy mixed probably with photonic energy too. They're mixing frequencies. They're crossing like photonic with stuff on the electromagnetic. And I guess photonic energy is on the electromagnetic spectrum, but they're mixing like all these different levels of electromagnetic frequency energy, and possibly scalar. There's nothing I can do to prove that, but yeah, I think scale and what is scalar, theoretically we know what it is, but I think they are operationally using scalar energy too, and they're mixing these things in layers to attack target individuals to get readouts and map the brain, not just to read the brain and see what somebody's feeling, but to map that feeling, that EEG, so then they can put another EEG in there, or they can intensify a natural EEG and things like that. Very, very intense brain experimentation that's involuntary and is unbeknownst to the public, getting more and more awareness out there, but the public wants to know about the cool things you can play video games with your brain, and they'll kind of look at this stuff. I don't know, every psychiatrist or doctor that I've had for the past couple of years, I've asked them if they know about the Cuban embassy attack, and all of them say, no, what's that? They try and they know about it, they've read about it, but they don't want to say, yeah, I know about the Cuban embassy attack, because then they know I'll have some footing there, right? So by doctors, we're allowed to die. We're left to die. We have been abandoned. I don't want to get into a dark place. I always think of that. I don't know if you guys, probably a lot of you guys who like Star Trek have seen Star Trek Beyond. It was like the third new Star Trek movie. I really liked it. I liked all those. But the bad guy in it used to be a Star Trek captain. It used to be a Starfleet captain, and they left him. They abandoned him, and he's like, it seems like the Federation has abandoned us. I always get that thought. For many years since I saw that movie, I was like, oh man, that's how I feel. They've abandoned us, and it's like people are just like, yeah, those people can die for this technology, and we'll just ignore it, and we'll kill them even, we'll deceive them, and make it worse for them so that maybe they'll go crazy and stuff like that. And then we definitely won't have to deal with them. You do one crazy thing or something like that, and then it's like, oh, they go back to that instead of like what's actually happening. What's actually happening in context is like we are being mutilated and brutalized and raped, by remote microwaves, by remote directed energy weapon systems. Um, I was just in my head. I'm just thinking, oh my God, this is so. I'm getting like my attackers are just like want me to shut up, and I'm like, I want to do more, right? Like, I want to put out more information, but it's such a horrific battle, and you guys know. You guys know. If okay, off of that. Okay, okay. So, do we already read this? Um, the contracts demand for a wearable sensor that can fit into a life-size magazine pouch. I think we already read this, but let's read it again. And can be clipped to a vest. Also points to concerns about accidental exposure to. Okay, we read that. Despite the okay, we were on this. Despite the burning sensation one might feel when they are in the beam of a heat ray-like weapon, Efton's warned that it would be hard to determine whether a concentrated microwave field was to blame. You will come out with no marks, so it's difficult to objectively determine if and how much someone was really exposed to, she said. Yeah, look at me. Like I have microwaves all around my body right now. I've been bombarded. My brain has been bombarded. My body has been bombarded for at least 10 years. I think it's been like 20 years. The first 10 years I didn't know about it, and it like I wasn't feeling a lot of the heat, but my brain was being manipulated. Then for the last like since 2011 to now, so the last 10 years, hardcore microwaves to my body all the time, never stopping, right? And I'm get up on these videos, and to a non-targeted individual, if I did have memory problems or something like that, and they didn't know about, they didn't believe this stuff, it's like, oh, well, that's just a regular guy. You can't see anything wrong with him. He's just dumb or whatever, right? And that's the problem that we're dealing with, because that's the purpose of this stuff, is to hide it, destroy it, like a character assassinate us, and then really destroy our brains and our bodies, so they can collect the data and not have fear of us having that information, reprisal, being able to tell anybody about it after this stuff starts coming out, which we're going to get through that, and we're going to get this stuff out. We're going to survive. There are detectors for other kinds of radio frequency waves than the microwaves described in the Department of Defense's contract solicitation. Paul Elliott of Magnetic Sciences Incorporated in Acton, Massachusetts, told BuzzFeed News. They are usually intended for people who work with electronics. The things we sell are the size of bricks, or at least half a brick, he said. You wouldn't wear one. So Paul Elliott of Magnetic Sciences Incorporated in Acton, Massachusetts. So we need to remember that name. Paul Elliott of Magnetic Sciences Incorporated in Acton, Massachusetts. So apparently he has things that can detect other kinds of radio frequency waves too. While high temperature inducing microwaves like the ones found in ovens can cook food and cause burns, the question of whether neurological health effects can result from less powerful ones has long lacked evidence. No, it hasn't. It just hasn't been given out to the public. The military industrial complex and all these contractors are collecting so much data. They know the details of what happens and how much time when you bombard people with microwaves, what it does, what kind of diseases it causes, what it does to the brain. They're just hiding it from the public, and they're saying, oh, we're starting to do this now, and it's been since after World War II. Before World War II, there was probably some experimentation by the Germans in the concentration camps and things like that. I think that Project Paperclip was where the Nazis, who did experiment with a lot of microwaves and stuff like that, they started to introduce those kind of things into United States contractors and the United States military. And we've talked about that before. Can cook food and cause burns? The question of whether neurological health effect can result from less powerful ones has long lacked evidence. It hasn't, just not to the public. They don't want the public to know how bad this stuff is, because they want to put up 5G, and they want to do all these consumer products where they're using electromagnetic fields and frequencies right near your head, right? And so they don't want the public to, they're like, we don't really know. And they've been just obliterating families. Every country's military industrial complexes have been obliterating families since like 1950. And it's been built up, and the training, research, and development is built up. The integrated directed energy weapons platforms have been more streamlined, right? They learn more protocols about how to drive somebody crazy and how to destroy their brain and personality. The networking and everything like that built up. More people trained, more of the human operators trained, the AI is getting better, right? And so they know a lot more than anybody. Then this article is just a lie. It's just propaganda. This is just war propaganda. This is literally war propaganda, where they're trying to hide weapons and how they've been using them on citizens for so long. For decades, they've been using them on citizens, and the United States and other countries have too. But they're trying to just say, oh, we know somebody's using it, we're not sure who. We need to start doing this, right? So this can be a really good thing for us, the people who are being experimented on this stuff, because now they're saying people will know about it, right? But and we're going to just have to get them to believe. We're going to have to just get them to believe the truth, which is people have been targeted and experimented on and tortured for many, many years before the Pentagon and the DoD said, "Oh, we know about these microwave weapons now. They're on the scene now. Just somehow popped on the scene, right? It ludicrous, like the most ridiculous thing ever. But people just don't want to deal with it. So like, oh, these microwave weapons, there's good stuff coming out of them. We'll enjoy the video game thing where we control it with our mind, and give our kids some things they can hook up to their heads and stuff while they're also being remotely manipulated too. And there's back doors into all these consumer products that are going to do that. It's just a new thing. Just a new thing. U.S. Air Force. Yeah. See, look at this. Look at this. They're lying around this, but they're saying something here. U.S. Air Force experiments set limits on human microwave exposure in the 1970s during studies of electromagnetic pulses seen from nuclear explosions. So what they're trying to say now is that the U.S. Air Force set limits on human microwave exposures in the 1970s. That's inversion. What they did is they were like, "Whoa, this is powerful. This can hurt people. Let's hurt people. Let's use these weapons and practice with them. Keep them from the public." They weren't like, "Oh, this is dangerous, and we've got to keep people safe from it." No, more towers, more microwave towers came up. We're America's #1 in 5G. Nobody gives a shit about this. The studies are hidden, right? When people, when telecommunications companies come in and they want to lay down a bunch of 5G all over the place. Well, we didn't really do any studies. They did studies, but they all came back where it was giving people cancer, giving people neurological issues, giving people energy issues. People being so fatigued, probably giving people joint issues, autoimmune diseases. This stuff is so dangerous. It's so dangerous, and the public has to know about it so that there can be actual where they're saying, oh, well, the U.S. Air Force set limits. They did. They said this is the dangerous limit, and then they went ahead and went past that dangerous limit on all their experimentation. We need real groups to say, look, this cannot be used on human beings involuntarily at all, and it has to be at this limit. And then the public and I guess the government's not going to help us, but in some way get committees and things to come up with like you cannot use these weapons just on people. I don't know how this is going to go because it's going to start being used in so many wars. Maybe it's going to be like drones, a whole drone swarm versus another drone swarm, or they're going to have their robots out there fighting and then shooting directed energy at the human operators of all this stuff. Who knows? But a lot of this is going to be part of life. These weapons, electromagnetic frequency, the consumer products, the medical advancements, it's going to be the future of humanity, whether we like it or not. And I do not like it, and I know a lot of you guys dying from this stuff, you don't like it either. But it gives us some hope that this is the future. This people will know about this as a commonplace thing in their lives. Directed energy, electromagnetic frequencies being used for all sorts of things in everyday life. So we need to quicken it, right? We need to quicken it so these guys, the military-industrial complex and the heads of those that are doing it around the world say, okay, everybody knows about it. We're gonna have to go ahead and roll this program up, and all this stuff has come out to the public, so we can't do it this way anymore, right? That's what I think. Well, we got to do a bunch of things, but that'd be one thing is to quicken it. It's already being quickened, right? This stuff's coming out in the mainstream. That means the death knell is here of these programs like they are. But we have to push it as much as we can and make sure. And I don't know how we do this in the most effective way, but we got to make sure that people stop talking around us when they're talking about, oh, we just found out about microwave weapons. Oh, the Cuban embassy attack happened. Oh, there's all these consumer products and medical advancements and stuff. Oh, yeah, those targeted individuals a couple of years back, a lot of them died. A lot of them, they said they were tortured for many. They were just mentally ill. So because they just don't want to know about that part. So we have to make sure that that doesn't happen and that people know where these technologies came from. These things don't just nobody can believe that these things just burst out onto the scene. That the United States Department of Defense would be just blindsided by, yes, lots of people are using these microwaves. We got to do something about that. That's such BS. It's so ridiculous if somebody says that. Um, those standards have widely been adopted since, but a 2000, no, they haven't. These standards have not been adopted. Every American, even non-targeted individuals directly, are just bathing in electromagnetic frequencies, and 5G makes it so much worse because it's millimeter waves. And there's stories, so many thousands of stories about students at colleges where they had big microwave towers, like new microwave towers above where they'd work, and they'd get big brain tumors and stuff. There's hundreds of thousands of those stories around the world. Stuff is so dangerous. And it must be regulated. And I do think that electromagnetic frequencies, directed energy, can be used in positive ways. I sure do. I sure do. But it should always be voluntarily. And and there should be committees, and the government should put sanctions on it. The UN should put sanctions on it. We need the UN to put sanctions on it, and that's why I'm so like, even though it was like, oh, disappointing that Niels Melzer didn't talk about it at the General Assembly. We need the UN to put sanctions on it. I don't care if the UN is part of Agenda 2030. I do care. I do care about the bad stuff in the world. But looking at this, if we can get this information out, the UN could do sanctions on these weapons and this technology. It could make a buttload of difference. It could give us credibility, and then we could actually, with our testimonies, court cases, things like that, we need to start like inverting this horribleness to our life and start figuring out ways to make it make our life better, right? By putting this information out, it's going to be legitimized. We have our stories, and then we can make money from that or get reparations. I don't know, but we gotta keep moving. This stuff is like just it's gushing out. This stuff is gushing out. Like the information about this, they know what time it is. The people who are trying to hide these technologies, they know their time is up with this. That people know that it's happening. Anybody watching this and saying you're a crazy kook and you think you're being targeted, like shut up, just shut up. They're targeting a bunch of regular people because they have to practice all these surveillance harassment protocols. They got to practice mapping brains, and if somebody's like inspirational or whatever, they want to make that they want to character assassinate them. Do whatever and do it so the optics look like that person's bad when in context with us as targeted individuals, we're fighting through some of the worst pain and the worst injustice that humans have ever waded through in their life. Waded, like not weighted, but waded through, like a big swamp of hell. And God, God's helping me, and I know God's helping a lot of you guys. You just got to ask. Miracles are in store and in our future, even though the world looks so dark. I think that when things get so dark, you see good people doing many more extraordinarily good things, right? So that's a good thing. I'm getting kind of off topic. Okay, so U.S. Air Force experiments set limits on human microwave exposures in the 1970s. Those standards have widely been adopted since, but the 2018 NATO technical report, that's another one we need to look into and do a video on. 2018 NATO technical report called those limits scientifically unjustified, saying they weren't backed by any experiment showing injury. Okay, no, we don't need to look them up. They look like they're for the propaganda for the system, the 2018 NATO technical report. Because they probably didn't want any limits or sanctions on any frequencies that they were going to use to harm the citizens of all the NATO countries. Crime world, man. It was satanic crime world. A report by French researchers last year that low power pulse microwaves were associated with cancer and behavior changes in rats. And cancer and behavior changes in humans, and the data's there. The testimonies and stories of not only targeted individuals, but many families who had family members that were like working or stationed by huge microwave towers and got brain cancers. I worked for St. Jude writing grants and doing other things, and they'd always have these new cancers. 2-year-olds would come out with these new cancers that they didn't have any names for. And why do you think that is? Because we're all surrounded in this huge electromagnetic soup, and it's not good for our bodies. And they don't know enough about it. That's why they're murdering a bunch of. That's one of the angles of why they're murdering a bunch of people and torturing them for their whole lives involuntarily, is they want to see the effects. And that's not the only thing, right? Because they're messing with my brain, mapping it, trauma-based mind control and all that stuff. But doing it over long term, they see the bodily effects, because they want to use this stuff on everybody in the world, however many people are left. They want to use it on all of them to connect directly to them all the time. What's that going to cause for somebody from when they're born, or before they're born, probably in the womb? They'll hook up, directed energy, bidirectional stream to that forming baby's brain. But then after the birth, they want to hook people into this for their whole lives, right? So they can control thought. That's going to be one thing that they want to do. And they want to know, what if we do this to the body, what kind of frequencies do we need to get so that so it maybe wouldn't cause cancer or something like that, if we want to hook people up just for the data to and from the brain, right? Just to change the brain in the way that we want, but not cause cancer, and those sorts of things. Okay, so a report, okay, we read that. I don't expect major safety problems for people in the beams. It depends on how long that you stay in the beams, right? Like if a remote microwave, like the human operators and automated systems, just put constant streams of energy and electromagnetic fields around you, and it never stops, and you can't get away from it, it is horribly dangerous to the body. Now, if you're in front of an active denial system for like a second and you move, no big deal. I would call that non-lethal. I'd call it non-lethal. But you can take something like a taser. Like a taser's non-lethal, right? And then you can just stick it in somebody's mouth and keep tasing and tasing and tasing. If it's used in the wrong way, right, it can become very, very lethal, right? Anything can be lethal. A fork is used for food. I would consider it non-lethal. But you can kill a person with a fork. Now you think about microwaves. You think about non-ionizing microwave radiation. Well, if I get a little bit of it at a certain amount, it's not intense, big deal, and I get away from it. But if you can never get away from it, and there is a grid, right? There's a grid, and then there's ground weapons and everything where our attackers as targeted individuals can keep us in fields of electromagnetic frequencies and in streams of energy to our body, and it doesn't stop. We want it to stop, and we're asking for it to stop, and it just goes on, and we use defenses which de-intensifies it, but some still gets through, and then over many, many years, that percentage that gets through doesn't matter the percentage, it's still going to affect energy levels, the body, and everything in the brain. Okay, where were we? I don't expect major safety problems for people in the beams. A lot of safety problems, but the problem is these people that are going to be speaking for the DoD are going to be like, it's not really a big deal and stuff like that, because they want to make directed energy seem as harmless as possible. That's why they're always like the contractors, and we're gonna be going. I'm gonna do as much as I can, guys. I have so much. Like, people are sending me awesome information, awesome articles. I have so much information to put out, and then some of my own stuff that I haven't put out. But it's getting really hard. And I've got to be careful, because if my attackers just completely destroy my brain, then I won't be able to do anything. So I'm trying. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. I don't expect major safety problems for people in the beams, but on the other hand, the amount of research on bioeffects from such pulses is limited. No, it's not. They've been experimenting and researching and studying and torturing American citizens. Other countries have been doing it since at least 1950. After World War II was the buildup of experimentation with microwave weapons. And then in 1970 was like V2K, remote neural manipulation. Before that, in the 1950s, they could put an implant in somebody and send a microwave signal to it, to hurt their body or do something. Put implants in the brain to actually send signals in the brain, right? But then, like, I think around 1970, it started to get more sophisticated, where they could remotely send signals to and from the brain with just really, I don't think they, I'm not quite sure about this yet, guys. And I know we say without anything in the body they could still do it. I guess I do believe that because you have natural magnetite in the brain, so the frequencies can connect, and with your unique brainwave signature, I just think with all the nanotechnology, the nanoparticulates, the implants, the heavy metals, and everything, the intensity of it is not marginal. The intensity of it is like times 50, right? So if you get all that crap out of your body, they may be able to do it to you without that stuff. But how intense it would be, probably not very. But I don't think any of us can really find out, because we can get stuff out of our bodies, we can cleanse, but are we getting all the nanotechnology out of our body? I'm still very doubtful that once it goes through past the blood-brain barrier, maybe some of it would come out in toxin cleansings, but is some of it just in there? I'd like to think not. I'd like to think we could get all of that out, and it does make a huge difference. You see, when you do cleansings and stuff, you can tell a difference, right? The intensity level goes down like by times 5, times 10. um, I need to stay on that. Let me finish the article. So I don't expect major safety problems for people in the beams. It's very dangerous. It's more than safety problems. It's like mutilation and damaging the brain. It's so bad. But on the other hand, the amount of research on bioeffects from such pulses is limited, and that's not true either. So both of those things were lies. Were blatant, huge lies. Were blatant, huge lies. Even in like the 1960s, they had papers written up in naval intelligence in the Air Force of how microwaves affected, what the bioeffects of microwaves were on people. So they already had extensive knowledge in the 1960s and 1970s, maybe even before. And all they've done since is streamline and manufacture more and target more people. So they have tons of data. They're just saying, I guess he's saying the public doesn't know shit, right? And he's right about that. Like the only people that know about this stuff and how it affects the body, how dangerous it is, right, are the people that are being experimented on with it. And also, you've got people who are out there talking about FIVE uh, G and stuff like that who are not necessarily directly targeted. Right? Everybody's targeted by electromagnetic frequencies indirectly in the world, but people who care about this and know how dangerous microwaves are, maybe they're not targeted too, and so they know, and then we know, but the general public, doesn't think this stuff is that dangerous, doesn't pay attention to it because it's not in the mainstream media all the time on purpose, right? Um, Bioengineer Ken Foster of the University of Pennsylvania. Oh, that's Ken Foster? Oh no. That's the guy that did the testing, did the DTI testing. Like Dr. Hoffer did the initial, I think this is the guy. I think this is the guy. No, he's one of the people I was going to contact at University of Pennsylvania, but I sent emails and none of them got back to me. And I called numbers that I found on their profiles, but they were like out of service. He was one of the names, but he wasn't the main neurologist who I was trying to get in contact with, I don't think. I've got to go back to that. Somebody was asking me about that in a live stream. I think Jen was. She was like, "Did you ever get in contact with them?" I've tried so much, emails and everything, and then the numbers I could never get to them. There were a few doctors there. Maybe I'll take another crack at that. There are people who know about this stuff, and they would know that we're targeted if we got in touch with them and had an appointment. But it's like they're across the country from me, right? Dr. Hoffer was across the country from me. What I'd really suggest, and this is just one side off thing that I think would really work. You targeted individuals in Miami, especially in Miami, but anywhere around Miami. Start making appointments with Dr. Hoffer. Start seeing if he sees more targeted individuals, maybe then he can do presentations that are a little bit that are better. I don't know what because he works for the good DoD. Like he actually works for the not the compartmentalized part of the DoD that's doing this stuff. He's called upon when there's anything that's hurting people and he needs to help. So he's actually a good guy that works for the DoD. It's a really there are people that exist like that. So just keep that in mind. We got to keep that in mind because that gives us hope, and it's true hope that there are good people up in these organizations. They're kind of the bad stuff is compartmentalized, so these good people that are working for DoD or Air Force or anything, so they may have heard about it and they know it, but they couldn't say like, oh yeah, I work on that and I have confidential documents on that. I don't know. We can talk about that stuff more. The University of Pennsylvania said if the military is going to field these weapons, they jolly well better do good safety study. Oh my God, that is such a ridiculous, so ridiculous. They're experimenting with on people with directed energy and microwaves for their entire lives. I guess you could say that's a safety study. So let's see what Chun Lam says. This is why the Second Amendment is idiotic. What is the purpose of guns if you can't defend yourself against microwave weapons, drones, and viruses like CV? People with guns only want to own guns to play with them and kill other people, not to defend themselves. Well, I think that's wrong. I think people need guns because the government seems to be pretty scared. They want to take people's guns just like Biden's trying to do right now. And it's also to protect yourself in your home if things do get chaotic in your community and people do start trying to steal from each other or kill other people. If something like that happens, you have that protection. There's many different uses, but I agree with him in the fact that no militia is going to storm anything and win because they not only have like active denial system and handheld microwave weapons, they've got a grid around the globe, and then they've got people at integrated directed energy weapon systems in different, like everywhere around the United States. This stuff is proliferating because it's a business slash military mission or whatever, right? Military development. Business slash military development that's murdering and torturing people. Crime. Like our system, like the most powerful part of any country is the military industrial complex, and they are using the people as experimental guinea pigs and then just slaughtering some of them. And they're supposed to protect our countries and protect our ways of life. So we targeted individuals know that. Okay, so I think people need guns. I don't know if I can get one. I haven't tried recently. How I agree with Hal Corbin says it's all bloodlust for a death cult. I believe that. I believe the people that participate in these things are cult. Some of them are, just pure Satanists, and they really are just straight up literal cultists. But I think anybody who's like a crisis actor or informant turned agent provocateur, I like that saying. I think Brian's right on the money with that saying, informant turned agent provocateur. I think that's the best way to describe it. Or surveillance role player, or gang stalkers, or the people that are microwaving, that are secular maybe. They have a cult-like mentality in their head because they're doing horrible things, but they believe in that it's going to do something good, right? We're going to kill these innocent people, but it needs to be done, right? That's a cult mentality. That's an insane, illogical, based on faith in the top of the pyramid, which will eat them too, right? So the people they're having faith in, this is all going to turn out okay if we just murder a bunch of innocent people. It's people that hate them too at the top of the pyramid and are going to kill them after they do this. So, okay, guys, I just wanted to show you all that article. How long did we go for? An hour? That's not too bad. Not too bad for me. Yeah, I kind of had to force myself to push myself to make a video today. I'm not feeling really well, and I'm trying to focus on family and what's going on with my grandma and be there for that. But even that's hard to do. So, like, because I have no energy all the time, so I'm trying to just focus on that. When I can do that, go do that. And then so worn down that I'm just like, I don't want to, can't do a. I did a long live stream the other night. I was feeling good. That's kind of like, it's like when I'm feeling good, I can do so that's why I do such long live streams. I'm here, but that's not a good way to do YouTube. That's been a whole thing for me. You do short videos and you're consistent with your information. Then we can get this information out. We can build the YouTube channel and get the information out. But I'm still going to be doing stuff, guys. I love y'all. just hang in there. I would really recommend like all you targeted individuals, especially targeted individuals who you're like, I don't want to put my face out there, you know, because I want to keep anonymous and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do a live stream. I have a PowerSoft record as my screen sharing for just these type of videos. I think I paid $70 for a lifetime of having it, and then you can share articles. You don't have to use the camera. You can turn your camera off and just pull up articles like this with a PowerSoft record. Um, you know, find some way to do that. Or if you look at Autumn, I put in Autumn targeted individual, and it usually takes me to her channel. Look at her channel. She's very, very smart, and she's, you know, she's not putting her face and stuff out there. She's just pulling up really all the information flooding out about neurological weapons, cognitive liberty, you know, stuff about James Giordano, stuff about, you know, just everything about this. When there's a good YouTube video or something like that, puts it on her channel. So maybe we'll go through, and it's really good. It's really good, and it's getting a lot of awareness out there. And I think if we all did something like that, like so don't look at my videos and say, well, if I'm not going to be able to put my face out there, I can't do anything. I can't put any information out. There's many creative, intelligent ways to do it. And since we have a flood of information coming out, we need some more TIs making channels, putting information out. I think a lot of you guys and girls, just all of you men and women would be very good at doing it, you know. And there's ways to do it where you don't have to do it like me, and just come put yourself all the way out there and say like, I'm a target individual, I'm getting microwave. We have enough mainstream articles now where you could just go through those and get awareness out about this, but you know, you wouldn't have to go too much into what's happening to you if that's embarrassing, right? um, I'm not sure how everybody feels about putting themselves out there and getting information out. All I know, and I'm so tired, so like I try not to preach because a lot of the things I say, like we got to do this, I don't have enough energy for, right? And I'm just trying to put these videos out. I forgot what I was going to say, but I completely blanked it. Completely blanked it. But there's a lot of ways to get information out, and since we've got a lot of mainstream information coming out, we need some people. You don't just need to do testimony. If that's uncomfortable for you as a targeted individual, just getting on a video and going, this is what they're doing, this and this and this, and it does kind of gaslight us when we do that, right? It gaslights us to normal people. Um, Sometimes it can even gaslight us to targeted individuals without the same protocols, right? But that's a topic for another video. But I'm just saying there's ways to do it, and so much information is getting out there. And then we've got these pressure points, right? Gene Shaheen, Niels Melzer, you know, there some people, some target individuals have their cases in the Supreme Court. We need to go over those specifically and maybe find a way to support them. And then targeted justice is working on that. Uh, Target Justice is working on a class action suit, but like I'm gonna be working on just talking to lawyers, and when I get my energy up, I want to do everything, right? We've got to do this stuff. We got to get this out and think of some good ideas in doing it. I'm also kind of, well, I guess I won't go into that, but I thought it would be helpful. New Type was talking about an app, and I don't remember the name of the app. I think he was looking into maybe 2 or 3 of them where we target individuals could get on them and stay in contact. And I was thinking about maybe some form of communication where maybe me and some of you guys, some targeted individual women and men, where it would be as secretive as we could make it, and not talking about doing anything violent, but maybe making some smart moves that would maybe be people would perceive it as being like a little bit out of line, right? Out of the lines. Because people are dying. You know, men, women, and children are being tortured to death, and it's like there's this normalization that takes place. For me, it's taken place because it's going on for so many years, and there's behavioral conditioning. Like I think with my behavioral conditioning, I'm really effective when I'm angry. Like I'm very effective. Like I use my passion and I pour it into other stuff. So it's like somehow, and this is only one angle of my targeting, they have they've done something with remote neural manipulation to to really mess with my emotions, but to mess with like how angry I get about stuff. I'm not sure, some of it's me because I'm normalizing, trying to trust in God and just stay as calm and upbeat as I can, right? When you get really angry all the time, you're at lower frequencies. These frequencies can hurt you more. I'm a little bit like still questioning what is my natural adaptation and survival mode that's my brain's going into when I have people like looking at my brain all day and saying, I can't think of like small words, and just and talking about what you're thinking and stuff like that. How much does that affect it when over such a long period of time? But my brain is like way different. Still the same me, still the same me. Uh, and I think a lot of it is like if they pulled if they pulled the stream of energy off of me and stopped this, I think there would be a lot that I would just go and I'd be like, whoa, I feel like myself again, right? But then there'd be some things to the brain that would be, it may be permanent. Um, this is very serious stuff, and I appreciate it if you're a non-targeted individual looking at this information, if you have a truth channel or something like that. If maybe you don't have to talk about targeted individuals, maybe you can talk about cyber torture, maybe you talk about, well, they're testing directed energy on people all around the world, and not, you don't have to say targeted individuals or anything, or just show articles like this, and you really help out the people who are like just being tortured to death. Women, women are being, electronically raped and stuff like that. I'm electronically raped too. The men are too. And then God knows what they're doing to children, because children can't get on a YouTube video. They can't go to a conference call with other targeted individuals. They tell their parents things are going on, and their parents are like, oh, that's mental illness. So you might have like a 3-year-old kid who's being microwaved and remote neural manipulated, and this is not some kind of like, oh, I'm just being way too dramatic. Yes, they experiment on kids. These contractors experiment on kids. They, in science, when they're trying to collect data, they have to have a whole data set. And where I see with these people, different cultures, different personalities, different IQs, different situations, different ages. In a child tells their parents something like this, they're going straight to, some children have probably been put into mental institutions for being attacked by microwaves for the rest of their lives. And their lives were destroyed by the mental institution thing and being hit by directed energy weapons. This is evil, and people need to fight against these evil things. They're never justified, no matter what comes out of them, because there's an evil energy that is, whenever you say the ends justify the means are the ends. That's the most blatant thing I've learned in life. The means are the ends. How you do something is how the ending's going to be. So you got a bunch of Satan worshippers up at the top of the pyramid, and you've got really evil people who are like, we'll just take orders and we'll experiment on a bunch of people in every country, and then it has this evil energy in it. So even when they try and do good stuff afterwards, there's going to be a curse on it. There's going to be an energetic quality to that stuff that comes after, where if it was done right, you know, could solve problems, could solve all these problems that the top of the pyramid and the globalists say there's too many people on the earth, blah, blah, blah. If the public was involved in problem solving, and there'd be no problems. We'd have natural things on the earth that we'd have to face. The public was let in, and we had so many of these great minds all around the earth thinking about solutions. So many great things could happen without that evil energy, without that immorality, without that Satanism. you know so this whole thing that the keepers of the secrets, the I don't know what the Masons call themselves, or some Zionists, or whatever, Kabbalists, Talmudists, they keep the technology secret, because they are the high priests or whatever. That's a dangerous world, because you get them, and they're like, you get those people going, or those creatures, the high priest, right? The people at the top of the pyramid, the Masonic institutions, and all that jazz, right? Um, my attackers just erase that. But anyway, y'all get what I'm saying, where they determine how it's going to be used, and they want control of the public and to be able to, if a girlfriend breaks up with them and they're like an ex-military in one of these contractors, they want to be able to rape her remotely to get back at her, and a love in, right? Or so it brings this whole obsessed boyfriend thing to a whole new level, or obsessed girlfriend, right? Where it's like, if you have somebody in those contractors and they're in, another person says, hey, we need to break up or whatever, and then after that it's like, oh, the guy who's ex-military in the program will just put the girl that he's obsessed with in there, and then he can watch her, right? And then probably after a year or something, he goes away, she stays in the program, right? He kind of goes on with his life, but she stays in the program. So these revenge with these revenge targeting things, I do think that happens, that the person that wants revenge on you may use the weapons for a while, or may use supplementary ground weapons or whatever, but then it's like the program takes over at a certain point, and there's human operators that may or may not have been in that whole thing where people wanted to get revenge on you. None of that made sense. I hope some of that made sense. Um, Dealing with some stuff in my brain. But I'm gonna get through it. Like, I feel better. I feel a lot better in some other things. Some other things feel better, but this stuff goes on. And a big problem for me is, like, I have some defenses and cleansing and Dave KCD and the grounding and everything. But I'm getting so tired, like, from the stuff that gets through, right? Because some stuff gets through all the time, that it's like I had my grounding just sitting on the floor last night. My grounding was, and I was just too tired to even just put the straps on my leg. I was like, I don't even want to do that. So I'm getting to that point where it's like I need it's like, and if I use the defenses, it's more effort. I'm gonna have to really pump it up, but then it'll pick my energy levels up, and then it'll be easier to do everything. So I'm in that kind of situation now. And the defenses do not block everything, and you've got to get a good combination going to get some relief. But it's way worth it, way worth. And I think and I've said this before, right? Because we're waiting to stop being tortured, fighting, protesting. All this other stuff is taking the center stage. It's on a level that the public is reacting to, and then everyone's kind of ignoring this, while the mainstream is putting out all these articles about, like, oh, microwave weapons are a new thing, but people are more focused on the mainstream news, Joe Biden's gaffes and what's going, and all the other, and CV, right, and the jab and everything like that, and all the other crazy stuff going on in the world too. I love you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. I will see y'all soon. So much information. Thank you for everybody that's sending me information. Thank you for everyone who's donated to me in the past and everything like that. I really appreciate it, and I really don't think I could keep doing this without some donations and stuff, because I'm getting to a point where I don't know. I gotta somehow make money. I'm trying to think, can I do it with this, and just, but then I've got, like, then some days it's just like I can't do anything. So it's tough. It's like it's all kind of dependent on how hard I'm being targeted. My deal is that I can affect that with defense. I can affect how good I feel. I still feel kind of crappy, but I can affect the level, right? And so I just got to kind of start doing that so we can get into. Another problem is, I guess I don't want to get into all that. We'll get into that on another live stream, but I get wrecked. Just for even doing this, I'm getting hit in V2K and everything. At the beginning, like, of doing videos, that was happening. And like 2 years ago, when I started doing live streams a lot, getting attacked in V2K on the videos. But then after years and years of it, it's just like, it's not even a decision that I'm making in my mind. It's like, I don't want to get on a live stream and be attacked and then attacked after the video. I'm gonna push through it and stuff like that. I'm gonna push through it, but it's so stupid. It's so stupid because, like, we have this little channel here, right? And I don't think it's gonna I mean, it's doing good. It's helping target individuals to understand what's going on and stuff like that. But I don't even feel that my attackers are like, he's getting all this information out and he's going to shut down the program. I think they're practicing. They're like, this is important information. It's probably not that dangerous that he's putting it out, but we're going to go ahead and work the protocol. You know, I don't know. I don't know. It if I was just going to go off my instinct and what I'm saying, they're like scared because I can speak about this stuff and just talk about it, you know, because it's happening and people send me great articles. I find great articles. I find good information. I do think that the information is dangerous to them, you know, to them. And I think the way that I put it out is kind of dangerous because I just like say it, right? That's my feeling on it. But I always want to, you know, we know how this stuff goes. It's just like the first couple of years, getting through it with adrenaline and all, but it never stops, you know. And then it gets to where I don't like it because I have so many great ideas, and I'm just like, oh man, I can barely just get through the day. But I'm pushing, and I know that things will change for the better. Let's leave it with this. My timing's not working out. The timing that I'm like, I need this to happen, I need to get better here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to trust in God's timing. I'm going to trust in God's timing, and I think we should all do that. Trust in His timing. Do the best in the situation that you're in, no matter, you know, even this is the most terrible thing ever. Our bodies and our minds being ripped apart by remote microwaves. But if we do our best in this situation and trust in God, then in that when you know when we get past this, it'll be so much better. We'll already be connected to God, and then we can hit the ground running with other things besides this. You know, and that's what I hope for, and that's what I pray for. Whatever God's will, you know, whatever God's will, but He gives me strength to get through this, and that's a definite fact. And many other miracles in this. So we have a very powerful God in the name of Jesus Christ, guys. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all soon, probably. Um, I'm not sure when I'm gonna do something else. It's Thursday, definitely this weekend. Definitely this weekend. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.